Hi, and welcome to Turning Point School of Art. I'm Professor Sarah Perks, and we're on week 2 of our summer school. And the topic this week is everyday objects. Nearly every discussion of everyday objects starts with Marcel Duchamp because he presented a toilet as a piece of artwork. Though he'd already used a bicycle wheel and other found objects to make his pieces that basically put the idea before how it looked. More interesting is Louise Nevelson, who made these fantastic wall sculptures from the 50s in the US that look like shrines. Her signature style is a monochrome palette. She explains how she didn't have any money for art materials, so just went looking around her Manhattan neighborhood for stuff. Painting lots of objects the same color can really transform them. Here's a picture of me a few years ago with a piece I commissioned from LA-based artist Lauren Halsey. The everyday objects here are artificial hair extensions from beauty shops across the city. Lauren's found objects create fantasy worlds that imagine new beginnings. British artist Sarah Lucas is known for incorporating lots of ready-made objects into her work in a humorous way. Newspapers, clothing, including tights, food, furniture, household appliances, and body parts. And here's her famous self-portrait from a series in the 1990s. Dan Vo was born in Vietnam, and when he was 4 years old in 1979, his family had to flee due to the Cambodian-Vietnamese conflict, and his father made them a boat to leave in. They were rescued in the sea by a Danish freight ship, and so they ended up moving to Denmark. Throughout his work, Dan uses this idea of this random encounter deciding their fate all across his work. He collaborates to explore identity, history, and migration. The objects that he uses might be broken, ancient sculptures, everyday household objects that appear to be from specific places, also personal letters and photographs, all brought together to tell new stories. The background I'm using today is the fabulous South London Gallery, and this is an exhibition they held in 2019 of Dan Vo's work called Untitled. Taking this use of personal objects to a whole other level is Chinese artist Song Dong, who made a piece called Waste Not using over 10,000 domestic objects, formerly owned by his late mother, who didn't want to throw anything away. She'd suffered a lot through China's turbulent history in the 50s and 60s and wanted to hoard everything that she could. Song and his sister began to make this installation as a way of persuading her to part with some of the objects, and also as a way to talk about their family history. Speaking of no waste, arte povera was an art movement in the 1960s and 70s that literally translated as poor art, but really it's about using lots of non-traditional materials and unconventional objects within these artists' work. Yanis Kournelis was a key figure in this movement. He threw out his canvases and began to use types of material from earth to fire to gold, bed frames, windows, coat racks, smoke, coffee, coal. He wanted the gallery to literally be breathing. Sometimes he used live horses or people in his work. Marisa Mers was unfortunately the only female artist associated with the Italian movement. And she talked about the fact that there was no division between her life, her home, her work, something that the current moment brings into sharp focus. This installation, now owned by Tate Modern in London, is made from aluminium, reflecting items from the kitchen and also craft that she incorporates into her practice, including knitting. Arte Povera was critical of the commercial art world with its pristine white cube galleries. They used ordinary, mundane objects to stick two fingers up to the art establishment, basically. A legacy of movements like arte povera is now found in environmental art that often uses recycled objects to explore our relationship with everything from pollution, the ocean, climate change, farming, renewable energy. Mandy Barker is a British photographer who's been working for many years to document all the plastic rubbish in the sea and how harmful it is for marine life. In a nod to last week's theme, Vic Muniz made a series of photo portraits in a landfill site in Rio de Janeiro, working with the trash to create images of the people employed there in a way to empower them. Also the subject of a moving documentary by Lucy Walker called Wasteland. Namjoon Park is a well-known Korean artist that made loads of installations out of, can you guess? Televisions. Lots and lots of televisions, like this piece and this piece, and then gardens of televisions, robots of televisions, robot dogs of televisions, whole towers of TVs. He didn't stop there. He made video work to go on the TVs and really was one of the first video artists. He also kept describing a superhighway that would connect us all in different ways. He was basically imagining the internet and us sat here doing exactly what we're doing right now. Nick Cave is an artist from Chicago. He makes installations with found and everyday objects that completely take over whole galleries. Fantastic maze-like constructions that you can climb up and into, spend hours in. They also have a political meaning with references to issues such as gun crime, racial profiling, gender equality, and Nick invites the space to be used by local communities, functioning as a sort of town hall. Senga Ngudi started pushing boundaries in the 1970s in Los Angeles, also using materials that were found and accessible. Best known for her sculptures of sand and nylon, she talks about experiences of women. She was using nylon tights, or pantyhose as they call them in the US, way before Sarah Lucas. Her background in dance influenced how she moved her sculpture into performance. Her well-known piece called RSVP is seen here briefly. It was a series of performances she created following the birth of her son and thinking about the changes within her body. So everyday objects have been used in contemporary art for all different reasons, out of necessity, because objects have a special meaning. An artist might make these choices purely on how it looks or what it represents, whether it's rubbish that's meant for recycling or priceless gold objects. Beauty, after all, is in the eye of the beholder.